All right, in this video, we're going to talk about one of the fun features in QuickBooks Online, which is called rules. So to get to rules, if you go to transactions, you can go straight to the rules menu here, or if you're on the transactions tab, you can click on the rules tab at the top. So rules are a great way for us to automate some routine transactions that come into QuickBooks Online. The way to do that, you can click here on new rule, and you can manually create the rule. If you are bringing over a client who had an existing QBO file, maybe you're starting a new one from scratch, you also can click this drop down and click import rules, which I love. So you can literally grab a CSV file of rules from a different file and import them into whatever QuickBooks file you want, which is very cool. My favorite way though, and the easiest way I've found to create rules, is to create them straight from the bank transaction. So as the transactions are happening, we're going to turn it into a rule. So let me go ahead here, and I'm going to undo all of these transactions, so that way we have something to work with. Okay, so I want to create a rule for A1 rental, for example. So, and again, I already know here in this demo file, this isn't going to work, but that's okay. So we're going to assume that A1 rental is always an equipment rental. And once I put that in there, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on this button down here to create a rule. We have to name the rule. I always like to name my rule just the vendor name. Sometimes you might have to add more details if you have, like for example, Google, we can have different categories. So you can have Google Ads, then they might also have like Google G Suite. And so you want to be more specific with the name of the vendor sometimes. You're going to decide if if the transaction only applies to money going out. So in this case, A1 rental, I'm looking to, when we have an expense for them, I'm going to put money out. I'm going to go ahead and change this to all bank accounts, but you might not. It just, again, it's going to vary client by client when the rule makes sense. And then it needs to include all or any of the following. And again, as you get more used to making rules, you'll come up with better ways to do this. So QuickBooks defaulted to choosing this information. So when I hit test rule, it's saying it's going to apply to 2 currently unreviewed transactions. And looking over here on my left-hand side, because it's only money out, it's talking about this A1 rental, backhoe rental, A1 rental, backhoe deposit right here. This A1 rental on 12/17 is $200 of money in, which is the return of the deposit. So that's why it's not capturing that in this rule. Now, what I don't like about this rule in the sample company is that it's just saying A rental instead of A1 rental, when the memo says A1 rental, and you actually can see it down here. The bank memo says A1 rental. Now, I never want to replace the bank memo because if we make a mistake, if it starts messing up the rules, I want to be able to quickly see that when I'm reviewing the books. So make sure that you undo that. You don't want it to overwrite the rule. You also want to turn off auto add. Until you're absolutely positive that your rule is working and it's firing correctly, don't turn on auto add. You'll make a big hot mess in your book. So we want to make sure the expense is equipment rental, the payee is A1 rental, and I'm going to hit save. Now you'll see something different here. Under categorize or match, instead of saying just match, it says rule. So it's saying, hey, we recognize that for these 2 transactions, you like to code it to equipment rental. But notice there's a problem here. The payee should be pulling in as A1 rental. So I'm going to click on my rules. I'm like, maybe we messed up. So let's go ahead and let's click edit. And let's make sure that we have the payee A1 rental, which we do, selected and hit save. So again, when I come to my bank transactions, this should be pulling in the payee A1 rental. So I love QuickBooks rules, but I also hate them. It does not work, it doesn't work perfectly. It doesn't work every time. So for these 2, it's still helpful. I at least know that I intentionally chose equipment rental as the expense account. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the 2 boxes. I'm going to click edit, and I'm going to put my payee name in right here, and then I'm going to apply and accept. All right, let's try the MasterCard. Let's see if we have anything here that we could use. Okay, Laura's lamination. Let's try making another rule. So I'm going to put in the vendor name. It doesn't exist, so we're going to add new, and then just click save. And because we don't have any transactions with Laura, we wouldn't actually choose the account, right? This is an example where I personally would say ask client, and I would create an expense account. called Ask Client, like so. The detail type is completely irrelevant, so I'm just going to leave that alone. All right, and hit save. Now, I don't actually want to create a rule that goes straight to Ask Client, right? That would defeat the purpose. So let's pretend in this case, we've asked the client and they said, Laura's Lamination, they want us to use advertising as the expense account. So I'm going to click advertising, and then I want to create my rule. And so again, put in the name. I like to use the vendor name. I'm going to go ahead and just leave this money out on the MasterCard, but again, we also could select all bank accounts if we wanted to. Description includes her name. Test the rule. Says it'll apply to one currently unreviewed transaction, which means it's going to work. The expense is advertising, and the payee is her name. And then again, I do not want to replace bank memo. You also could click this box to keep the existing, but again, there's no reason for them to overwrite the memo at all. I don't know, at what point that would be useful. So maybe there's a scenario where it would make sense for your client, but I've never had it make sense for mine. And then I make sure auto add is off and hit save. Now, oh, I can't use an apostrophe, so let me just remove that from the name. All right, so you can see here, this time it pulled in the payee name. The rule is advertising, and I can just click add. And so rules just really help us speed up categorizing the transactions in QuickBooks Online.